They'd tagged it with a yellow Port Authority strip and left it on the condemned shelf between a pallet of cracked engine casings and a crate of spoiled ration concentrate. The tag said unworkable, wing joint fused, disposal authorized. Foreman Hetch saw me stop and look at it on my way out. "Leave it, Caulder," he said. So I left it. I went home, ate half a tin of something, sat in my chair for 2 hours, and then drove back to Cauldron Dock Bay 3 at midnight, with a kit bag over my shoulder. The Dragon hadn't moved. It was lying on its side on the metal shelf, slate-gray scales catching the dock's emergency lighting, the color of old iron, weather-worn hull plating. Subadult, maybe 4 meters snout to tail when it could stand fully, though it wasn't standing fully now. The fused joint on its left wing held the limb at a locked angle, jutting out and back like a broken compass needle. The right wing was folded correctly, tight to the body. The eyes were open, yellow-green, with a vertical slit that tracked me across the dock floor the whole time I was unpacking the kit. I didn't say anything. I just got to work. I'd loaded dock freight for 31 years. Before that, I'd worked the resettlement runs on the outer belt, and before that, I'd done 2 years on a Veldran contract crew, long enough to learn that their bond animals were not pets, not cargo, not equipment. Long enough to learn that a fused wing joint was not necessarily the end of anything. Port Authority's vet had looked at the shoulder assembly for 40 seconds and written unworkable. 40 seconds was all the Port Authority ever gave anything that didn't have a freight invoice attached. The joint wasn't fused, it was seized. Inflammation, probably weeks of it, locked the tendons against the socket like a rusted bolt. I'd seen the same thing in the heavy lift rigs we used to run on the southern platform. You didn't write them off. You applied heat, the joint carefully, and gave it time. I applied heat, I worked the joint carefully, I gave it time. The Dragon watched me for the first hour without making a sound. When I started the slow articulation, hands on either side of the joint, 10 degrees of arc, hold, release, 10 degrees back, it made a sound low in its chest. Not pain. Something closer to recognition, like a man who's been holding his breath finally deciding to let it out. "I know," I said. "It's going to take a while." That was the only thing I said that first night. I came back every night for 17 days. I told Hetch I was running maintenance checks on the Bay 3 loading rig. It was not entirely false. The rig did need its lateral calibration adjusted, and I did that too, because I am not a man who likes a lie to have nothing to stand on. The Dragon, I didn't name it, because naming it felt like I was deciding something that wasn't mine to decide, started to anticipate me. By the 4th night, it had moved itself off the condemned shelf and onto the floor near the rig's base, where the deck heating vents ran warmest. By the 7th, it was eating the protein blocks I brought without any hesitation, taking them from my hand with a precision that was slightly unnerving, the teeth coming together about a centimeter from my fingers, and no closer. The wing was responding, slowly. The arc of motion was increasing by 2 or 3 degrees every session, the inflammation receding as the circulation came back. By day 12, the joint was tracking freely through 60 degrees. The Dragon still couldn't fly. But it was standing, and it was watching me with an attention that had changed in quality from the first night. No longer the flat, waiting look of an animal that expects nothing. Something else. Something that felt, when I let myself think about it too long, like being assessed. On day 14, the Port Authority posted a removal order on the Bay 3 door. The Dragon was to be collected at 800 on day 17 for standard disposal. The order had Hetch's signature at the bottom, which I didn't hold against him. He had his own ledger to balance. I took the order down, folded it, and put it in my kit bag. Soto 800 on day 17, a Port Authority crew arrived at Bay 3 with a handling cart. The bay was empty except for the loading rig, and me doing my lateral calibration. I told them they had the wrong bay. They checked their paperwork. They had the right bay. I told them to check again. They left to check, and by the time they came back with Hetch and a revised authorization, it was 1400, and the matter had been overtaken by events. The Veldran delegation arrived at 1330. 3 vehicles, not freight transports, not the standard diplomatic runners the Veldran embassy used for trade liaison. Military-grade haulers with the Armada's wing and crescent on the door panels, Slate gray, the same shade as the dragon's scales, I did not think was a coincidence. 6 Veldran soldiers in full wingplate came out first, took positions on either side of the bay entrance, and stood there with the absolute stillness that Veldran military personnel have that always makes me feel like I'm moving too fast, just by breathing. Then the wing marshal came in. I had seen Fing Marshals twice before, both times at a considerable distance. This one was tall even by Veldran standards, with the deep bronze scale patterning of the northern bloodlines, and a bearing that made the soldiers casual by comparison. She walked to the center of the bay, looked at me standing next to the loading rig, and then looked at the dragon. The dragon was standing fully, both wings out. The left wing, the one that had been condemned, that had been locked and written off and authorized for disposal, was extended to its full span, 6 meters at least, the joint tracking through a clean arc as I watched. The inflammation was gone. The motion was perfect. The wing marshal looked at the extended wing for a long time. Then she looked at me again. "You are Caulder," she said. Standard was precise and unaccented. "Dock loader, grade 7. Loader supervisor," I said. "Grade 8, I got the bump 2 years ago." She considered this. "The transit record shows this animal was condemned on the 14th of last month. Authority vet gave it 40 seconds, I said. Joint was seized, not fused. Took about 2 weeks of heat work and articulation to free it up. And the same thing on loading rigs. You compared one of the Armada's bond animals to a loading rig. I compared the joint mechanics, I said. Principle is the same." The wing marshal was quiet for a moment. Behind her, the 6 soldiers had not moved. Something in the quality of their stillness had changed. The way a room changes when everyone in it has just decided something at the same time. "This animal," the wing marshal said carefully, "is the bond animal of Commander Vethkale, who has been grounded for 6 months awaiting its recovery. The Port Authority's assessments was considered final. Commander Kale was to be reassigned to ground logistics at the end of this month. I didn't say anything. You were ordered to leave it. I left it until morning," I said. "Then I came back." Once the wing marshal looked at the dragon again, at the fully extended wing, the clean arc of the joint, the slate gray scales catching the afternoon light through the bay's high windows. The dragon had its yellow-green eyes fixed on her. It had not looked at me since she walked in, which felt right. There were things here that were not about me. She turned back and gave me a formal Veldran acknowledgement. The wing shoulder dip that I'd learned on the contract crew meant something between this debt is recorded, and you are known to us. It was not a small gesture. I had only ever seen it given to other Veldran. "Loader supervisor Caulder," she said. "The Armada thanks you." I picked up my calibration tools and put them in the kit bag next to the folded removal order. "Bay 4 rig needs its vertical track looked at," I said. "I'll be there if anyone needs me." Commander Kale was back in the air within the month. I know because the wing marshal sent word through the embassy. A short formal notice, the kind they send when a debt is officially logged in their records. I read it twice and put it in the same drawer where I keep the folded removal order. Hetch never asked about the condemned shelf. I never told him, some things you do because they're right and the paperwork is wrong. You don't need a delegation to show up and confirm it. But I will admit, on the cold mornings when the bay doors are open and the wind comes off the water, that it is a fine thing to be known.